Welcome back to the Real Couchwives podcast where we overanalyze all things Bravo.
Today we're recapping Vanderpump Rules season 11 episode 3. The tides might be starting to change against Ariana already, which is like pretty surprising considering they're picking up filming 3 months after she finds out that, her boyfriend of 10 years is cheating on her with her best friend, not best friend, according to Rachel, uncertain. Acquaintances. So yeah, that's interesting. We'll unpack that. And then another really interesting thing that happened in this episode is Schwartz, who is still like angry at Sandoval, as he should be. He does get some zingers in, which we are proud of. But then he starts to turn his anger towards Ariana and like call her out that her ego is getting big because she's like capitalizing on, this horrible situation that's happened to her.
Yeah, apparently Ariana is not Schwartz's queen.
Yeah, I don't know who Schwartz's queen is, but it is not Ariana.
It's Tom Sandoval.
Oh, it's true.
Queen of the universe, Tom Sandoval.
So yeah, let's get into it. We'll also be recapping the after show because it has actually become possibly more entertaining than the show. Like, it is crazy.
Definitely more spicy, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, especially because now, like, they have had time to think about it and they see the episodes, so like this is how they truly feel.
Yeah.
Which is especially funny for Sandoval because like his narrative has not changed, so like I feel like everyone else is kind of trying to take the opportunity to maybe reflect on it in some way, or maybe they've changed their attitude.
Yeah.
But like Sandoval is literally still just like, no, I back everything that I said in that moment.
Well, and Scheana is interestingly using the after show as a chance to kind of like start to get some digs in at Ariana. So it's some interesting dynamics going on in this group.
Yeah, it's so true. So much to unpack. So, okay, we start the episode off. It wasn't to be continued. We ended with James peeing in, Sandoval's bush, and Allie's like, it's also Ariana's bush. At Sandoval's sad party. So Schwartz is there. He's there for a little bit before he goes to Emo Night. And this is when basically Sandoval's starting to like tell Schwartz what happened with him and James, and he's like, oh, like James expected an apology and he called it like the ultimate betrayal, whatever. And then Schwartz actually had some good, not expertise, but like
felt like Schwartz was like kind of like leading Sandoval in the right direction, right? Trying to just be like, no, you don't need to like go up against everything. You can just say, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have done that, or something. You don't need to always have like a comeback. You don't need to always have retort to whatever James is going to say to you.
He's like, that's not the last time someone's going to come at you, and if you get angry every time, like it's going to have a really negative impact on your life. And I was like, oh my god, yes, Schwartz.
Can't believe you figured that one out by yourself.
I mean, probably not. It only took like 10 years, but yeah, so that was good. And it was just funny too because you see Sandoval just like going to everyone at his party, just like explaining the scenario and like trying to garner sympathy. And sometimes it worked. Like, he went to Billy Lee and like her on cue was like, well, you really suffered. Yeah. You really suffered with Raquel.
Yeah.
I saw like cue your opportunity to talk about how Raquel left you to work on her mental health like a horrible person.
Yeah, I know. What a meanie.
Yeah, so we kind of like go back and forth between like Tom's party and Emo Night, which is amazing. James comes after, his pretty bad conversation with Sandoval, and he's telling Ariana what had happened, and she did make the good point of like, the people around him now are like yes people, and like people he pays, and then they flash to his like band manager and Billy Lee at the party.
Yeah, Kyle Chan, his jewelry designer.
I thought he was friends with both of them too.
He is, and I feel like Kyle Chan's really like been the one like to get the most, I guess, out of all of this exposure, right, for his business, because we've seen him so many times over the years. Didn't he also design the engagement ring for Brittany and Jax? I feel like he might have.
Like, I think that might have been him.
We've definitely seen him like multiple times on like Bravo shows already. Yeah, and so he's just kind of part of this group. He's the one that had the friendship bracelets with Sandoval last year too. That Sandoval then gave to a paparazzi dude.
Yes.
TMZ guy.
So anyway, Emo Night's pretty funny. I literally just wrote, oh dear God, the Screamo version of Good is Gold.
Scheana really has nothing to complain about in the midst of all this Ariana stuff because she'd made out just as well as Ariana in so many ways. If anybody has anything to complain about, I feel like it's like Katie, because Katie's the
Yeah.
only person that really hasn't capitalized off of anything for this.
It's so true. Katie's just like chilling,
Yeah.
being her absolute self, which I
Yeah.
love, and we'll get into it in a second. Another thing I just want to point out here is that like Sheena's talking about how she has a band now, right? And she's like, I never wanted to be a pop star. I wanted to be like Gwen Stefani or Fergie. And
Yeah.
it's like
Two
they
pop
are
stars.
100% pop stars
Yeah.
and can also sing really well. They just also happen to be in a band.
Yeah, and like just because they both started in bands with boys, they also both went off and like did their own thing without boys. And like, why does your life need to center around guys, Scheana? Like, why can't you just be a girl's girl? You clearly are just so pick me. Like, ugh.
Yeah,
Kills
yeah, and
me.
things are not looking. And she's so confusing too, because like at the end of the episode, which we will get into, like she has a
Mhm.
really good scene with Tom Sandoval where again she like calls him out, but then like it's
Yeah.
immediately juxtaposed with the after show where she's like turning on Ariana, and it's just like frustrating. But well, clearly we just want to get to this part. Like it was a very like end heavy
It was a very
episode.
end
Like a
heavy
lot of
episode
things
for sure.
happened
There's a
towards
lot of
the
just, like
end.
little fillery kind of things in the middle.
So yeah, they do go back to Tom's birthday, but again, it's just kind of like it was basically just for Billie Lee to bring up that Tom was hurt by Raquel because he loves her, and she went and she left him.
He's so in love. He got sober for her, guys.
He got sober for, and it's so interesting too because like I feel like he talks about this a little bit later, but he does bring her up a couple times, like Raquel, that how much he loves her, and that like he got sober for her. He got sober for her so that they can have their first drink together when they get
I know.
out.
I caught that too. Yeah, it's an interesting reason to go sober. I really think that he's just using like anything to make him seem like semi what would the word be? Make him seem semi-sympathetic, right?
Yeah.
Anything that they could possibly like do to basically allow him to like feel like he's like, look, I really do love Raquel, and what we had was a real thing. It wouldn't just be like, oh, I just blew up my life because I was bored.
Yeah, and then he also brings up, and I think I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit, but like he brings up that she just cut him off and she didn't even say happy birthday. And, like that was sad to him. And it's just like these are the moments I'm actually really happy that she has a podcast now. I haven't caught up on it, but I did see Vanderpod recaps. Who, oh my god, she is putting in so much work. Do you know how many different Vanderpump Rules related podcasts are out right now, and they're all talking about this subject?
I know. I did actually listen to Raquel's podcast after this episode came out, kind of expecting that she would talk more about the Sandoval dynamic, because I kind of was also curious for her to like respond to him like having been so in love with her allegedly. She doesn't really talk about it though, interestingly, and she specifically put out like a 10-minute podcast this week like to respond to this episode, and she didn't talk about that. She talked about like the Ariana thing again, a couple other things I can't really remember right now, unfortunately, but it wasn't Tom related, which was kind of the key thing.
Okay. But it did sound like she at least did speak about how when she was there, Tom was being like basically making her feel bad for being there and saying that she was like super dependent on this place and that she abandoned him and she left him and she should go face her life.
Which makes it just sound like how could you be saying that to somebody that you're supposed to be in love with, right? Like if we're 2 months later from this interaction that he was having with her while she was away, like how are you like on the phone with her one day being like, I'm so in love with you, I am so in love with you, but how could you like leave me, and how could you abandon me, and how could you like be there? And then like we're seeing him film with Billie Lee and like whoever else will film with him, and him being like, I'm so in love with her, I don't begrudge her going away and trying to work on herself at all, when you clearly do.
Well, yeah, that's it. And then she also said that like the reason she did cut him off is basically because her therapist is like, this is not good for you, and like that's it. Which she is like
$90,000 going to that place. Like,
well, that's it. Like
she shouldn't have talked to Tom Sandoval by the end of it.
No, and we also know that he was also seeing other people during this time as well. So it's just like it's a very interesting revisionist history.
That's just it.
We do then go to a scene with Ariana and Katie at Ariana's place, and they're getting like IV drips.
Oh yeah, that was so fun.
And I feel like there's not that much here, except for Scheana and Katie are going to be working on their friendship. Essentially, is something that we learn, which curious to see how that plays out.
All in good time.
Yeah. And Ariana doesn't think that Schwartz needs to be invited to things. And Katie does call out Scheana for kind of flip-flopping on Friends.
Yeah, because they're complaining about the fact that Schwartz was at Emo Night, basically. Even though he missed Scheana's set. So
yeah.
He still spent a good amount of time at Tom's party, Tom's sad little pathetic party. Or he spent a lot of time in traffic in between the Valley and wherever Emo Night is, West Hollywood,
True.
I'm assuming.
Man, so late. I just keep thinking about the fact that these people are all not that much older, but like older than us.
Like 10 years older than us, basically.
Well, like, I guess Sandoval
maybe not. Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
not
Sandoval,
the girls as much.
Yeah.
But like,
10.
man, being out and like having your set happen at what, like 11 o'clock or something, like so late.
Yeah. I mean, her set was probably only that one episode, that one song. So like, even if it was like 10:30 to 10:35, but
there's a small window.
There's a very small window.
And then we go to Pump. Lisa goes to an empty Pump because it is now closed. So then Tom Sandoval comes in and they have a conversation, and like again, Sandoval is just like super on the defensive. Like, this is the whole thing, right? Like, I feel like he just fundamentally doesn't get it, or just like doesn't want to get it. And it's not that like it sucks that you did this, but it's not even about that anymore. It's just like the fact that every single person that speaks to him in this time is like, just be sorry and mean it, and don't yell at us, and don't be defensive. Like, then it would be different. Like, the fact that everyone has to say this to him is what he's not understanding. Like, he just keeps being like, this is so hard for me. I said sorry. Like, why is it not over?
I know I effed up. As if that's like the golden ticket to like get out of all of this. Like, you just need to say, hey, I effed up, and now I get to go home and like just chill.
But he didn't even say that at the beginning. It took him so long for him even to like start saying that he messed up. And then also like just watching the after show pieces are so frustrating too, because he's still just like doubling down.
Yeah,
and it is actually so crazy. We talked about this in another episode, to see some of the things coming out of Raquel's podcast now, where at least she's like changing the way that she says things, and she's kind of like taking accountability. Even with the Ariana thing, she's like, you know what, even if we weren't as good friends as like, you know, it's being made out to be, it was still wrong. It was never okay. Yeah. And like, we're not getting any type of that from Sandoval.
Yeah, that's just it. I really do feel like week to week, as I'm listening to Raquel's podcast more and more, I'm like, wow, there are actually some things going on here that it actually feels very productive. So
that's so interesting, because we just didn't think that on like the first 3 episodes. So I feel like she did herself a disfavor, unless maybe she's like working through it in real time.
Well, she is. So like the second to last episode that she had, I think at least in my current time, was her talking to like, I don't know if they were a therapist exactly, but it was somebody that was talking to her about like love bombing, and like talking all about kind of like those like dynamics that in relationships, and how those kind of like unvolve what
evolve, unfold,
unveil like what? I'm sorry.
It's very late for you.
I'm getting silly.
Was there an end to that?
No, that was it. Just that it is. It's like, it's her like literally having this conversation with this person, talking about like love bombing and like that like experience of being in that type of relationship. And her, I think, trying to like start to like have these pieces, like puzzle pieces, kind of come together,
right?
And recognize kind of what went down.
Well, that's good. And honestly, like, Sandoval's like name dropping her so much that I actually am happy that she has a place to kind of react to it. Whereas at the beginning, I didn't feel like that way.
Point. Yeah. Well, and even the fact that like he's like, oh, her having a podcast is so unhealthy. Like, she shouldn't have a podcast because like that's just her like still living in all of this. And it's like, but you're still living in all of this. Like, why does she not get to live in all this anymore?
He's allowed to, for some reason. So anyways, he sits down with Lisa, and it's like pretty tense. Lisa brings up that it's like ridiculous that they're still in the same house, which is
Mhm.
so annoying. This freaking thing. Everyone just stop
I
getting mad
do
at
appreciate
Ariana.
that she was like, wouldn't it have been the gentlemanly thing for you to do for you to move out?
I did like that at least
Like,
she said
yes,
that. She's like, move out,
thank
sell the
you.
place, which is what Ariana wants to do. Like, she doesn't
Yeah.
want to keep it. She just wants them both to sell it.
Yeah, they just want it to like be gone.
Yeah.
And he has this like still has this like fake storyline of like this fake news about how like it's like, oh, I submitted a thing like a month ago and I want it's a good house. I put so much money into it. It's like the same. We're gonna listen to this all
the
season
whole time.
long.
Yeah, she hasn't paid the bills and the mortgage in 8 months.
Yeah.
And then I saw that like Jax and Brittany's podcast, they're now weighing into it as well. And Jax is like, yeah, like he pays all the bills. Like she doesn't pay a single bill. And Brittany's like, well, Brittany brings up the after show, what we were talking about in our last episode. Like, well, she was saying the
Brittany.
reason.
Thank you, Brittany.
And then he's like, well, no, but she doesn't pay it. Like that's 100% a fact. And then Brittany's like, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, that's what he told me. I'm saying what he told me. And it's like,
okay, Jax.
Oh, that's what you're like. So just
job.
Because he said it, it is 100% fact. I'm just so confused on like which team Jax is on at any point in time.
Jax is on Jax's team. Jax is on Jax's team, but Jax is also kind of on Sandoval's team.
Oh yeah,
because I think he thinks that he has the best chance of getting back on TV because of Sandoval. I guess he's on TV because of Sandoval. Ugh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yep. Like just honestly, also just to do like a quick kind of tangent with the podcast, I actually find it overwhelming, and I'm not even listening to them. I'm just like reading recaps of them.
I know,
but it's getting really overwhelming to have a show and then the after show, which I do really like, and then like 5 different podcasts of people
you have to listen to
trying to get their side of it out, and like it's honestly becoming a little bit too much.
It is. It's a lot. It's very overwhelming. Even like the text recaps on Instagram, I'm like, oh, so much information.
No, but that's it. Because they'll, and I'm really curious as to like where the line is, because obviously they can't spoil anything, but they are using it as their opportunity to kind of like expand on things, or like to Scheana, they're like, oh, Scheana, like in one of the things you said, that like if the worst thing Raquel did was, fall in love with her best friend's boyfriend, that could be forgiven, but, you put out a restraining order on me. And then she's like, okay, well, let me use my podcast to explain my side of that, so like they're using it to kind of like unpack these things, but there must be like a limit on what they can or can't say. So I just wonder where that line is from Bravo.
I think that the line is only probably what has or hasn't aired. Like I think it's once it's aired on TV, they're like, yeah, it's fair game. Because how could Bravo really like, go after everybody? You'd basically have to be putting out like a gag order.
Yeah,
that's about it. And you have to do it to all of your castmates. But
it's literally like there's Scheana's, there's Lala's, there's Tom's.
Katie has one now too.
I didn't see much coming out of Katie's as of yet.
It's not very juicy.
And then there's apparently Billy Lee has one, but
Billy Lee, Jax, Kristen. Like
Jax has one.
All
Kristen
the
has
ancillary
one.
people.
That's literally
Raquel
8.
has one.
Raquel, that's 9.
Stassi has
9
one.
but Stassi's not talking about this as much. There's 9 podcasts that are talking about this one episode.
Yeah, Tom Schwartz should get a podcast soon.
It's true.
He should get his own podcast. He doesn't need to be Sandoval's like wingman, like sidekick.
Anyway, sorry, I can't get through this conversation with Lisa.
It's okay.
But basically Lisa's like, where's the way forward? And then he starts yelling at her. He's like, this is a lot for me. Then he brings up that his friend died, and then he brings out that Scheana reached out to him about his friend, but he didn't think it was real. Because then he brings up the Nema podcast with Scheana. Which is like his new way of he's just grasping at straws, right? Just like finding any little thing that you can to pick apart. But that's it. So this whole thing that he brings up is, who is this guy Nema again? He's in like is he from Shaws of Sunset?
That's what I was wondering. I think he might be from Shaws of Sunset, but apparently he and Rachel hooked up is basically
and
TLDR.
He like talked about some stuff on Scheana's podcast, and Tom Sandoval thinks that this is disgusting. Tom Sandoval, who recorded her without her consent,
he only has one example. Right. This is a very high moral ground you have there, Sandoval. Yeah, and like Sandoval was also only like talking about like one very like specific part of the podcast, and I have to admit I didn't listen to the podcast, so and it was like
Yeah.
8, 9 months ago that it would have aired, so scrolling that far back would be almost impossible in my podcast app. Um,
But it's also like, dude, you put so much more spotlight on this subject. Like,
mhm,
none of us, like, even those who might remember, like, even those who might have seen it, like, do not remember. But
yeah.
now it has just been brought back up to the surface, and you spoke
Yeah,
about it like four
yeah,
times
you
on
brought
this
it up. It's a good point too. It's a
podcast.
good point. You breathe life into it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he brings up that, and then he just wants to move on.
Hmm.
And then Lisa was like to stop being so angry, and then she's like, "You're," and then he's like, "You're attacking me. This is my life. This is grueling." And he's just like full on yelling at her. Like they're
Hmm.
basically yelling at each other now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's not great. And he's the only person that could ever get away with this. Like,
It's
well, I
so true.
mean, technically Stassi and Kristen would have back in the day been yelling at her. I guess Jax probably yelled at her a little bit as well. Um, but like Kristen, like literally, like if Tom Sandoval was a woman, Lisa would never allow him to
People
come
have said
around
that a
her
lot.
again.
No, it's so true. Like Lisa hated Kristen. She had such a
Yeah.
vendetta against her. And like
Yeah.
Tom has actually belittled her a lot more. Like if you
Yeah.
look at all the like talking heads of Tom when they were opening up Tom and him basically just being like, Lisa needs to leave us alone and let us do it. This is
Yeah.
our bar. Like
Yeah. Yeah. No, they had so many like little contentious moments during the bar opening of the bar, and just like throughout the seasons as well. Like I don't know, I think she just has a soft spot for him, and it's unfortunate that
Oh, she fully
yeah.
does. Ugh, it was so crazy. But yeah, and even her, she's just yelling at him. She's like, have some remorse. Like the fact that this is people's number one complaint about how you're handling the situation is that you have
Hmm.
no remorse. Like you should cue that. Like that should
Yeah,
tell you something. And then he's like,
it
oh, but
doesn't.
then like if I say sorry, it's crocodile tears.
Hmm.
And then I just think about the scene
Ramona.
from last year with him against the
Oh,
French
yeah.
doors going, why?
I know. But that's just it. Like it is crocodile tears because nothing is sincere. Like that's what people want, is they just want some sincerity from you. They just want
Yeah.
something to
And not
prove that there's like a
whataboutisms.
person in there. Yeah, not what aboutisms, not like you know exasperated apologies that like don't feel genuine. Like there's nothing real here.
No,
It's so annoying.
it is really annoying. I actually find he shows more sympathy when he's talking to like kind of random people. Like
Mm.
when I'm so bad at recaps, I'm sorry. I move all over the place, but like when we're still trying to figure that out. But like when they're at Sir a little bit later and like one of the servers comes up and was saying that he had to
Yeah.
like remove himself from him, and like Tom is like really, he feels very upset that like
Yeah.
all these other people have had repercussions over what happened, and he
Hmm.
like has so much more remorse for like Schwartz and like
Yeah.
I guess some of his like auxiliary friends than like
Yeah.
Ariana and like the
Yeah.
people actually involved in this.
Yeah, but I also wonder if he only kind of like has like remorse for them because he knows that he can still like kind of manipulate them,
Oh,
right?
that's
Like,
true.
oh,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's
I'm such a
that's
pessimist when it comes to anything with Mr. Sandoval.
so then essentially like so they're yelling at each other and it's really heightened, and then he brings up basically that he was in a really dark place, and something that I don't think I'm allowed to say on YouTube.
I mean, we don't
So
know the rules, so
yeah.
just
And
steer
this is
clear.
hard, right? Because you never
Hmm.
want you, you have to, when someone says something like that, you have to believe them.
Yeah, it's
And
very
especially
crazy.
when you're saying it to Lisa,
Yeah.
who has had her brother pass in this way, like this is like she's very heightened to
Hmm.
this.
That's just it. And that's just it. Like, it's one of those things where he, if he was saying that and it wasn't genuine, that would be very dark as well, right? To like be saying that to somebody who has kind of like dealt with that with their brother and like not, yeah, like like it's that's they're both bad just in so many different ways,
Yeah.
it's a really
That's
tricky
it. And
situation.
to be honest, like you can like it's not hard to imagine how he can get to that place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he basically was the most hated man in America for a very long
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
like it definitely would mess with you.
Totally. Well, and it's also like he built like such a house of cards, right? And this house of cards was you know like I took out the loan for Schwartz and Sandy's from my house with Ariana. So my house with Ariana is like there's no equity in there because we have this additional loan on like whatever little equity we put in there. So there's like the bar is then at stake. There's also like but like the Ariana relationship, there's the bar, there's the Raquel thing, like there's just like kind of like tiny little things there. Like him even like using like other people's credit cards to be able to pay for Raquel's like plane tickets and like him clearly there are like money issues there as well, right? Like yeah,
Yeah.
you know, maybe parts of it was just like being filtered to the bar, but clearly the bar was like a huge amount of money like was just being sunk into that. And like the fact that he was even like not really being honest with Ariana about like what their home expenses were, like the
Yeah.
fact that he couldn't come up with a number and he was just like getting money from her, like there's just like so many like little things. And then he's clearly kind of just like he's also like paying this whole band to have this whole band experience, like to be the rock star that he wants to be it. And yeah, I'm sure like when you were like, oh god, now I don't have Ariana like who I can like lie to and say, hey, give me $4,000, give me $8,000, whatever, and her just like give it to me because that was how I was also helping cover my expenses. Plus, Schwartz and Sandy's has now been a bad place because this whole big, you know, revelation has just been outed, and like everything was just kind of like toppling. You would think that you probably would have some, you know, darker thoughts or like more, you know, you feeling hopeless, right?
Yeah. No, totally. It's more just like when he brings it out at the height of this like fight when they're screaming
Yeah,
at each other, kind of to like
yeah.
end the conversation,
Yeah, and it
essentially.
is the ultimate conversation ender, right? Like, how can you be mad at somebody after that?
No, it's true. So, but I definitely understand Lisa too. And she's like, I think it was Lisa who said like, if people are gonna be mad at me because I reached out in that moment, then
Hmm.
so be it. But it's
Mm,
true. Like that's something you have to take seriously.
yeah.
Um, so then it kind of ends. She's just basically like, have some remorse, have some sensitivity. Then we change to Katie and Scheana, who are on a little friend date. Um, the biggest thing here is just Scheana apologizes for inviting Schwartz to emo night, and
Hmm.
Katie is just like, not everyone has to be in your life. Like if they're not serving you, like they don't have to be here. And I was just like, Katie's so unapologetically herself now,
Hmm. She
and I'm
is.
just so here for it.
I'm so here for it. I like. I want to be Katie. Like, I want to emulate that.
And I was not notoriously a Katie fan.
No,
She's
me
really
neither.
won me over the past
Yeah.
2 seasons, and I feel like she's just being her most authentic self right now.
Hmm.
And she like fully could not care less. Like she is
I know.
not
I love it.
trying to get into any drama. She's literally just kind of like doing her and adding some quips, and just like she's not going to let anything in that
Hmm.
like is going to mess with, I think, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
happiness.
Yeah, totally. And I think that there is like a little swagger that kind of comes from like having been on the show like 10 years. You're the veteran around this group. Obviously, a lot of them have been around for a long time, but like I think there's still like a confidence that she's kind of like putting off because of that. I love it
That's
for
true.
her.
No, it's true. We love this. And then we have a scene with Schwartz and Lisa at Vanderpump Dogs.
Is that where they were? Gosh,
I
I'm
think
so
so.
no, I
Yeah,
think
because he
you're
brought
right.
in his two dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, here Schwartz actually look. I feel like we all just kind of straddled the line with Schwartz, where it's like we're so frustrated. Okay, maybe I do.
I'm back
So
to being
frustrated.
excommunicated.
Okay, excommunicado. I don't know, man. There's parts of me that still feels bad for this man. Like when all this was
Really
going
nice of
on,
you.
like his brother was like his basically there was so many like family health things that were going on with his
Hmm.
dad, with his brother being in the hospital like 3 times. Like I feel like he's just been going through it. It doesn't excuse the way that he
No,
acts at
no,
all.
no,
And he
not at
can
all.
be absolute trash.
Yes.
But like there's just part of me that still just is like, this man is so deflated.
And that's okay. And I don't think you're the only person alone like that feels that way. So I think that that's totally warranted and totally fair. I just have my own feelings.
No, totally. I understand. And like, and again, like then we flash forward to like him just being so rude to Ariana and hating on women, and then you're like, glimmer gone.
Fooled me again.
But even Lisa, and then Lisa's like, oh, I just don't feel like the punishment like fits the crime, and I would feel differently if Ariana wasn't out living her best life.
Yeah, like
This is really annoying.
Yeah, this is the part that it bothers me.
Everyone is basically saying to Ariana, like, you're doing well now, and they're basically holding it against her that she was able to capitalize off this. Like, what do they want her to do? Like, say no? Like, people were clearly coming to her, right? Because she is like popular. They're coming to her wanting to do like commercials and then put her on Dancing with the Stars. Like, do they want her to just be like, no, thank you, I will sit in my hole?
That's just it. They want her to like be, you know, the like barefaced like Ariana that was like broken and distraught and like couldn't like function after the breakup initially happened. But they also, because like if you think back to Ken and Lisa when Yolanda was sick, back in Beverly Hills, and like Yolanda showed up to something without like that full face of makeup. They're like,
and Ken was
so
like repulsed.
Oh my god, she just looks awful. And that's what they want Ariana to be, right? They want this like performative, like, I am a broken woman because of this relationship not working out. And like the fact that like on the surface she seems fine, she seems together, she's got all these opportunities, she's doing all these things, she's dating this new guy. Like, I can see why people would be confused, but I think it's annoying that they don't understand that there's also going to be like so much like unpacking and like trauma and just like different things that Ariana is going to have to deal with for years to come. She needs to make that money now so that she can pay for therapy for the rest of her life. Mr. Tom Sandoval.
Yeah, it's true. It's so frustrating, and like they do address this on the after show, which comes up later. But for now, we're at See You Next Tuesday.
Yay! We made it!
We made it. This is where a lot of stuff happens.
A lot goes down.
Yes, Schwartz, what happened when Schwartz comes in? And I think Lala was like, oh, who invited you? And he's like, oh, I was actually kind of happy that Lala gave me a dig because hate is better than indifference. That's when you're literally like, this man's self-confidence is so low.
Killing me. You're killing me. Schwartz. Such a victim, always playing the victim.
That's true.
I guess hate is better than indifference.
He's just like I don't even know. Then Sandoval comes in, and he says, "I am ready to be apologetic and humble," and I was just like, it's giving Erica Jane asking her therapist how to be empathetic.
And it's like, but you're not even like, you're literally just there, like you're not even doing anything. So what do you mean you're ready to be apologetic and okay, sure.
And also you're not, like, we've never seen you do that. So, but like, I guess that was what you wanted to do.
You just needed to like set up the scene, and you just like wanted to like justify like, hey, look, I am growing because I just told you in my confessional that I'm growing.
Yeah, exactly. Then we have the server come up, Jesse, that I was talking about a little bit earlier. And I just wrote, even this dude is like, you know, I unfollowed you on Instagram because I didn't want to be attached to the choices that you've made. I just thought that was so interesting that you were like, yes, Schwartz. Even this dude didn't want to be attached to the sources that he's made.
Amazing. I love that.
I mean, sorry, I'm talking about him. Maybe they're good friends. I don't know. He has been at SUR for a long time, but like we haven't seen him.
Doesn't seem like it. Yeah, like he wasn't at Tom's birthday party the other day. So how good of friends could they really be?
Yeah. So I just thought that was funny. And then Kyle Chan was like, "Oh, do you have to deal with this every time? Like apologizing?" And I was like, dude, why are you...
Who's he apologizing? Like, what are you even talking about?
And also, like, yes, you do.
Yeah, maybe you do. Maybe you do. Maybe that's what you have to do when you've done this. Like,
yeah. But yeah, so that's when Tom is like, oh, I feel bad for others getting the backlash on this. Like, they didn't do anything. Tom doesn't do anything. He did not bring up that Ariana did not do anything.
Yeah. But also, Tom did do stuff.
Yeah.
Tom participated in this. He helped you last season like set up plot lines about Ariana and how she was a
Yeah.
bad girlfriend. He fed into that storyline
Like,
for
is no one
you.
gonna talk about that? Like, honestly,
No.
Schwartz
Even
like a
Schwartz
million
doesn't want to talk
times.
about that. Schwartz
But
wants
like,
you to believe that he's done nothing wrong and he hasn't participated in this at all and he's just an innocent bystander.
oh yeah, well that's what he keeps saying a million to one
I
times. He's like,
know.
I'm not the one who cheated. Like, I became synonymous with
Yeah.
Scandoval, and it's like, yeah, it's like
I just
literally
got
we
like
watched you
swept
help
up in
make that
it.
narrative.
Yeah, like you're literally still propelling it now, right? Like you are
Yeah.
still propagating the narrative that Ariana is this egotistical, maniacal, awful ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, whatever she is. Oh,
Yes,
it's
which we
hard
get
to.
into here. Like now, like
Yeah.
all the girls are there, and Schwartz comes, and like Lala was like, "Why do you feel that you need to stand up for this dude?" And then
Mm-hmm.
Schwartz is basically like, "We have a beautiful friendship."
Yeah. Like, okay, you've got something, all right.
Yeah, and this I actually really liked Lala here. She's like, "You're gonna see it, and when you do, like he's going to devastate you."
Yeah.
Um,
I did
and
love
then
that.
it was so
Read him,
good.
Lala, read him.
Yes. And then Ariana's like, I gave up on you long ago. You're a lost cause. And
Yeah.
this is when
Read
Schwartz
him,
like
Ariana,
broke.
read him. Yeah, it's a big Schwartz, true.
He actually also is another one that has a bit of a flip. Like
He
I feel
does.
like when he's called out,
He
especially
totally
by one
does.
of the women, he goes
Yeah,
savage.
he does. He goes so savage. He goes so intense. We saw it last year in season 10 when he went after Lala at the beach club place.
Yeah.
Like,
About like
just
her appearance and
about her
stuff.
appearance, about how how she behaves, anything that she does, like all of the issues that he has with her, and then he just wants to be able to like sit down and be like, "Oh, let me eat a French fry." Like,
Yeah. And then just be like, what, we're all friends here. Like, well, I was kidding. Did that upset
yeah,
you?
hi, Katie. Did I say hi to you already?
Yeah, so Ariana starts to, and everyone this season is so frustrating. Like, they're just like, Ariana is just being, like, she's mad, obviously,
Yeah,
but like, I don't even think she's being that savage. She's just like sticking to her guns, and
yeah.
people are like, oh my God, you're such a bitch. Like,
That's just it. Like she's not like 100% accommodating and like, oh my god, I'm so sorry for existing. And they're like, wow, she's really like laying it on thick. She's really
yeah,
intense this season.
it's so bad. Yeah, he's like, you're not, so Schwartz is like, you're not my queen. You're not queen of the group. Your
Yeah.
ego is getting a bit much.
Yeah.
Bro, how?
Yeah.
How is what she said ego?
I know. I know. Well, and so I don't know if it's too soon to go into the after show.
No, I think it's a good
Okay.
segue because they do
They do talk
bring
about
this
this.
up
Oh
in
yeah.
which both of the boys double down.
They do. And so, okay, I was thinking about this because I was having so many issues with just the way that like this whole narrative is going down. Obviously, we've talked about the fact that like this was the narrative that Sandoval set up last year. Schwartz helped him kind of like unveil it, asked him questions about it. Schwartz is now doing a very good job of kind of like running with this narrative of like Ariana is egotistical. This is the side of Ariana that we never got to see, and people are finally getting to see it. And maybe Tom
Yeah.
Sandoval was right. Maybe Ariana was beating him up every
Ugh.
night before bed.
Just being like, you're
Whatever it was that
stupid.
he was doing.
Oh,
Yeah.
your brain don't work so good.
Yeah.
I like the way that he said it.
And like it's just so like I think I figured it out is that like Ariana and like I don't know if you remember like that scene from Gone Girl where she talks about like the cool girl and like the cool girl, like what the cool girl is and like how the cool girl behaves, and it's this like idea of womanhood that like men see and they like because the cool girl is like skinny and pretty and she can hang out with the boys and she can eat hot dogs and she's just like super chill and she's like whatever, she doesn't have like high maintenance demands or needs, she doesn't need anything from you. And there's this like that is what Ariana was to these boys. She
Mm-hmm.
was one of the guys, she was one of the
Yeah.
groomsmen in Schwartz's wedding party. Like when they would do like these like cast trips, like she would be hanging out with the boys more than she'd be hanging out with the girls.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like crossed over to the other side now where she's one of the girls, and like these two guys, these two grown men don't like women. Basically, like they don't, right? Like
No,
they
they definitely
really
don't like them
don't
speaking
like
down to them or
women
telling them what to do.
or telling them how like that they need to set a boundary. They don't like them
Yeah.
telling them like anything or like being even like just it's unbelievable. And Ariana, here she is like setting boundaries, establishing for herself how she wants to behave, she's going into like her like 37th, 38th year of life. Like she should be able to decide who she surrounds herself with, and she shouldn't want to go to a Lake Tahoe trip with her ex-boyfriend that cheated on her for 7 months and lied to her about their finances and did all this shady stuff. Then she doesn't have to like go tiptoe around Lake Tahoe when she could be tiptoeing around her own house.
But this is
Like,
it. And like honestly, I think it's great that she's not changing her mind and not just being like, oh well, you know what, I should actually forgive them for the sake of the show. Like if she doesn't want to be with like Tom Sandoval, she doesn't need to be. And like I think she's coming off as strong. But yeah, so in the after show they do bring this up. And Schwartz again doubles down that he says it was starting to go to her head and she was getting egotistical. And then Sandoval is like, oh yeah, like that's actually what drove a wedge between us, because behind closed doors she was like that. Okay, but so you're telling me, so Schwartz is saying that this whole scenario, the breakup and then Ariana, being in the spotlight and getting the commercials and doing all that, that led to her ego. But then Sandoval's like, no, she always had the ego, but you're just seeing it now. So like, which one is it?
That's just it. And it's like, okay, so Ariana's this like, awful egotistical person. What about the guy sitting beside you that like literally has to become like a 40-year-old rock star that like sings cover band songs and like writes Raquel into his verses and writes your mom into his verses and writes you into his verses. And you
losing your house.
He's not egotistical. Like,
oh my god, that's such a
totally
good point.
Fine with all of Sandoval's behaviors.
It's so true. Like you literally go in the sidecar to Tom Sandoval. Like you are literally the second.
you don't
oh my god. It's so crazy. True. But yeah, that was the worst. And then and then what I love too is they went right to Ariana and like they tell her that Schwartz said this and she's like, oh yeah, that I was working. Like that's like, is that not what people do? Like I was working. Yeah, I worked really hard.
Yeah, I work every day. Somebody didn't just come up to me one day and say, hey, do you want 5% of my bar that I'm opening? I'm just going to put your name on it. Like, that doesn't just happen every day to people. Like, I need to work to be able to support myself. I need to be able to work so I can get myself out of this shitty relationship.
That's it. And it's also, again, like, it's like, just don't look, A, and B, again, like, these opportunities are coming to her. Do you think that any single person in that group would not have also taken those opportunities? Like, did they want her to not take it? Like, I don't understand. It's just like, it's so ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous. And it's just, drives me crazy. And if Duracell came to you and was like, hey, let's make a commercial, you'd be like, yeah, let's make a commercial. That sounds amazing.
Like, Tom, you're just mad that instead of getting commercials, people are making fun of your white nail polish on the internet.
Yeah. Thank you for ruining that for us, by the way.
I know, not for me. Actually,
you have pretty white nail polish, though.
True.
He has Sharpie and not true. Sharpie, white nail polish.
Yeah, exactly. And then this whole thing gets even more annoying, and this is where Scheana, we're like, oh, this is gonna be a bad season for you. Is Scheana is like, I don't hear from her as much. Like, I've seen a change in her, and like she never asked me how I am or like how anyone else is.
Yeah. And then Lala's like, yeah, but she never did that. She never knew how to do that. Like,
Lala? Dude,
Lala's
why are you guys
like friends with this person.
Well, that's it. Lala's like, yeah, like out of everyone, like Ariana, Tom, and Katie never would ask me about myself.
Yeah.
Lala's so funny because like when this whole thing happened, she was like, Team Ariana, like we ride it done, like Tom's the worst, and now she's like back to being like, well, Ariana's not like, she's not actually that nice, and like I don't actually like her that much, and like,
and I've never actually known if she likes me or not. Like I actually feel a little insecure when I'm around her because I feel like she doesn't like me,
and it's like, it's so frustrating. So yeah, now everyone is just changing their tune on Ariana, and it's like, it makes me so angry.
I know, it's very annoying. It's very frustrating. And like, they keep on saying like, we're just going to have to wait and see. We're just going to have to wait and see when the season unfolds and see how we, as the audience members, like really feel about Ariana. But I just, we are only 3 episodes in, but I just still don't feel like I'm seeing the proof. And it feels like from the after show that they think that like we're starting to see the proof.
Oh, clearly. That's true. And also, like, this is still only 3 months in where, like, I don't even... Like, was she getting all that much attention after 3 months? Like, I think it took like a hot second for everything.
No, I feel like she was probably at least already filming like the commercials and stuff. Like
Yes,
she
that
hadn't gotten like Dancing with the Stars or like Broadway or anything at that point, but yeah, it was already picking up for sure.
it's just like to turn it on her being um like egotistical or like
Yeah.
getting too big
Yeah.
for it. Like
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Like
Yeah.
she's literally just capitalizing on this horrible situation and
Yeah.
make which all of you have also done.
Exactly.
Like it's so rich. From Lala, you literally sold merch
Yeah, you
about
literally
something that you said
yeah.
regarding this. Like
Yeah. I know. It's
it's
so
so
frustrating.
hypocritical.
It's so annoying. All of these people are egotistical, right? Like Scheana, you don't get up onto like a stage and like sing and
Oh
like
my god,
perform if
Scheana.
you don't have an ego. Like, to the two Toms were both models. Tom Sandoval was also going to be an actor apparently. Um, James is a DJ. Like all of these people wanted the spotlight. All these people came here because they wanted the spotlight. None of these people
Yeah.
are doing this because they're like just here for
But
I can't even
Sandoval's
think of a
like
reason,
Sandoval has
right?
a
Like
cover band. He literally has a cover band called Tom Sandoval
and the
and the
most
most extras.
extras, right?
Oh
Yeah,
my god,
but
I
but
just thought
Ariana is
of
the one with the inflated ego. And once again, like I feel like it just comes down to like the treatment of women versus the treatment of men, right? Like men can be like egotistical and driven and like whatever the boss, whereas like a woman like tries to be in the same position and it's like, oh my god, she's so egotistical.
that. Yeah. Yeah, that is super frustrating.
You know,
And I'm pretty sure this is what the whole friggin' season is gonna be.
it's gonna be so painful.
Yep.
I'm not enjoying it so far.
No. But we do have one thing. So then we have Scheana and Sandoval and like
Right, yes, this conversation,
and
oh my
like but
god,
when they first see each other and like Sandoval's like, "Hey
it's
Scheana," and she's like, "Oh my
oh
god, people are gonna see me talking to him. What do I do?" Like she
oh
just
my
like
god.
it's so awkward.
No, but I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. You can't tell me that she didn't know she was walking into that scene. The way that she like walks up, she's like, oh, you're here. I didn't see the camera in front of you, sitting at your table with you guys.
That's a really
Oh,
good
right.
point.
Here you are.
But you know what?
Wow.
I
I was
do
just
love
innocently walking this way.
I do love that they went to the Surback Alley though, because
Yeah, that was great. That was
iconic.
nice to get to see. That was
Um,
good.
I did at least appreciate Scheana just being like calling him out a little, being like, you don't have to just keep doubling down and like acting like a villain.
Hmm.
And then she calls him narcissistic, which I did love.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. What did he say? He's like, no, you. Or basically
No,
like,
you're the
I'm not, look it
narcissist.
up.
No, I'm not.
If I am, then what are you?
Yeah, exactly. You're the one who rolled up here like Shania Twain on a motorcycle. The weird
Oh my
stuff.
god, it's
It
so
was
it's so awkward.
weird. The exchange was so awkward between the two of them.
Did you also notice that Scheana was talking really slow and like a Kardashian? Like she literally sounded like that TikTok
Mm,
that makes fun of how the
the
Kardashians
Kardashians
talk.
with their salads.
Yeah,
I love
like it was
that.
so slow and like
Yeah.
very.
Maybe she was just trying to like be a little bit deliberate like with what she was saying because
That's
it
true.
probably was like a pretty stressful moment. I would be awkward. I
Yeah,
would be very awkward.
I would too, but it was just like I do appreciate that at that point in time she was still really sticking up for Ariana and like
Yeah.
wasn't taking what Sandoval had to say and she was like pushing back on him.
Hmm.
What was interesting too here is Tom Sandoval for some reason is like he said that Ariana hasn't she's been the only one that hasn't vindictively come after him because she doesn't do that stuff.
Right.
And I was like, oh, well that's a complete contradiction to the
Yeah.
story you've been telling us for
Yeah.
like 8 months.
Yeah. And it's like, it's very nice that she doesn't do that. It would be nice if you also then didn't do that, right? Like, you've been vindictively going after her for the last year and a half. Like, maybe you could stop doing that now.
Maybe. Like
Maybe.
he's literally come out and said that he thought that her hatred towards him was performative.
Oh, really? When did he
Yeah,
say that?
on one
On
of the
one of the
after
podcasts?
shows.
Oh, on one of the after shows. Okay.
Like literally that he doesn't think that she
Like,
like
she
hates him
actually
that
hates
much
him.
and she just doing
She's
it
just
because why else
acting.
would she live in the house
Right.
still?
Oh, yes, I do remember you saying that. Or that, and the whole thing about him being like a protector of the house, and that's why she stays, because she likes knowing that he's there.
Vomit.
Gross. Disgusting.
But you know what's really nice? James,
What?
in this whole conversation with like Scheana and Lala basically trying to gang up on Ariana, James is the one who was like, well, yeah, she's working, guys. Like, why wouldn't she do it? And we're like, James.
I know. James, you've actually grown up and learned a lot. I feel like you're doing a good job.
Yeah, James might come out on top this season.
He actually might. Because he's also like still really funny and like able to like, and the thing is like when he was really shitty, it was really hard to like be like, oh no, I can't laugh at his jokes because he's a horrible human being. But now that he seems to be a better human being, I'm like, oh, okay, you can laugh at his jokes now because he's actually enjoyable.
It is. He is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Lala has also come out and said that this season so far is really boring on her podcast, which I think is kind of funny because it's like, she's also not in it all that much. Yeah. That's probably why she's saying
not
that.
Contributing a whole lot, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, right? Like the season picked up so soon because we wanted it to pick up so soon, and now it's just interesting because so much of the audience is like, "Oh, I can't believe this is all about Scandoval." And it's like, well, obviously it's all about Scandoval.
But that's
that was
like
the big thing that was happening when they filmed this.
And we wanted to film the fallout of this. Like, obviously, what else would it be about? I think it's more just like at this point, we've been hearing the same narratives and we're just going to have to see Tom like say the same thing over and over again. Yeah. So like I'm not upset that it's about Scandoval. It makes sense and that's what I expected. But I think it's just getting like, it's just a lot. And again, like I think they're all trying to capitalize it on it the same way and speak about it in all their podcasts, like we were saying. But like during Scandoval, it's like we couldn't get enough of that. It was like, oh my god, like every day. And now we're like, oh gosh.
Oh my god, we're almost a year into this. Which we are. We're like 2 weeks away from it being a full year that we've been in this, and it's still feels like we're in the thick of it.
And it's like, I don't think anyone would want us to just like, would want them to just all pretend to be best friends and just move on. Like, I don't think anyone could ever be happy with the follow-up season to one that was just so explosive of last year. Like, I don't think you can ever get it right in the way that, what even is next? Like, I don't even know what would be right.
I don't know. That's just it. I don't even know what like next season's gonna, like next season is gonna look like. Season 12. Hard to conceptualize at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I still think the episodes are good. Like, I think that they're really, like...
Yeah.
There's a lot in them.
Yeah. It's just feeling a little bit too similar to, like, last season of Beverly Hills when, like, it just felt like every episode you, like, walked away and you're, like, a little drained. You're,
but that's it. Like,
tired.
It's not fun to watch groups that are this fragmented.
Yeah. And, like, luckily, at least I feel like the parts that actually do get me the most riled up are probably the after show, so I guess it's good that we're only getting that like after.
It's true,
but yeah, definitely have to like decouple the viewings of those.
Yeah, well, let us know what you're thinking.
How you're feeling about the season so far.
Summer House comes out next week.
Yay! Summer House should be fun.
Summer House should be fun. Impending breakup.
Yeah. Oh my god, Summer House is going to be so good this season. Oh my god,
it is going to be really good. Do you guys watch Summer House? Let us know. We'll start recapping that as well.
Yay! We gotta.